back, everyone, to our Groundskeeper Chat series. I am your host, Meg Kruger, and today you are joining us for a special edition 2025 Pioneers in the Field expose. That's the wrong word. Spotlight profile series. And our guest today is Maryanne Baglos. She is the turf manager and long title coming forward once I officially introduce her. But at ESPN Wide World Sports Complex, we spent the morning tracing around town. We got to see practically the whole world in our morning this morning. But now we're back at the office, back where I'm sure you feel most at home. And we're going to dive into your story. But welcome to the series.
Oh, thank you very much, Megan. Thank you for choosing me.
Of course. It's a no-brainer. Seeing the complex here, walking around with you this morning, a no-brainer to me that you are excellence, that you are a pioneer in this field. But officially introduce yourself. Give us that official title that you just tried to coach me up so that I could, recite it. And there was no chance.
I wish I had known, that way I could write it down myself. So I am Maryanne Baglos. I am the turf manager at ESPN Wide World Sports. And I'm also the lawn and ornamental pest management manager for Disney's Horticulture.
Incredible. And we just did a drive around town, around the Disney complex, but we also walked Epcot. But what was really cool is when we were driving back here, we passed the Palm, which is where you got your start here at Disney.
Yes. So it was the Palm and Magnolia golf courses, which now are managed by Arnold Palmer, but still owned by Disney. But yeah, 26 plus years ago that I got my start from here at Disney World, and was on the golf course for a couple of months there, actually. Started as a groundskeeper, was the title that I had back then. Full-time position came in pest management for Disney's pest management, which everything is done in-house.
Okay.
So from termites to aquatics to structures to kitchens to lawn and ornamental. Mm-hmm. So that's basically what we did. It was a 24/7 operation, 365 days a year. Not to say that I didn't want to get back into pest control, but coming from a golf course, and it started there as far as spraying and stuff, just was looking for something different, but it was a full-time job, of course, more money, benefits.
Yeah.
Let's start it and see. And then I ended up working my way through pest management, got my first promotion to leadership, and worked my way through. So that was 22 years of my 26 plus career here at Walt Disney World. So so it flew by, and yet sometimes it thinks it's just like it happened yesterday. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, now you've been in this position for 4 years.
For 4 years, yes.
And you were talking this morning how oh my gosh, yeah, it just has completely flown by in the blink of an eye.
Yes, definitely. It lots of learning here coming to the sports complex, because now you're dealing with events, multiple day, weeks. A little different from coming from a golf course as far as where my start was, where you got greens committee and members and everything else. But, no matter what, your biggest challenge, I think, is always personnel and good old Mother Nature.
Yep.
What you're dealing with.
Definitely. And so we typically love to start off our Groundskeeper Chat with our turf origin story, but you gave us a little glimpse into it right there. But I think what I really loved about your story that you were just able to share with me this morning is that this job could not be more perfect, in the sense that your origin started in sports and a love for Disney. You grew up coming to the parks as a kid, and you also told me about, growing up and being at the park, like the Parks and Rec, with your dad, and it was like a family affair sporting wise. So, this is that perfect blend of those two things that you get to call a job, which I put that in quotations, because what I spent this morning with you, I was like, wow, I can't believe this is somebody's, office per
Right.
se.
Yeah. I would have never thought in a million years. Of course, I didn't want an office job.
Yeah.
But to say that this is, my office and our office as far as, being in the turf industry. Yeah. And I actually, it's funny you say that because driving in this morning, I actually thought that to myself is, thinking back on these, questions and stuff is, where did your passion come from? And I'm thinking it was from playing sports with my dad, is just being out there, seeing it, playing on it, and just really enjoying it. Because I played soccer and softball as I grew up, but I was a sports junkie. I would play tennis and basketball and just, growing up in Miami, water sports, so swimming, just everything, just anything outdoors.
Yeah.
Anything outdoors. So coming out of college, like I had told you, marine biology, being in Miami, around the water. And something came through to where, my start and my origin is going into the grocery store and seeing a job for the golf course for a landscaper.
Okay.
I did landscaping when I was younger, for the neighbors and friends and stuff like that. And thinking, well, I'm out of college, have a degree in associates in arts, so not even in, turf or marine biology or anything. But, got to get the job because mom says you got to do so.
Yeah.
So I did and called the number and interviewed and started at Don Shula's Hotel and Golf Club back in 1993 on their horticulture and their landscaping side, so around the hotels and stuff that they had there. Did that for, I think it was probably about 5-6 months or so. I was still playing softball at that time. Ended up tearing my ACL playing softball. Was out of work for a couple and talked to the superintendent and said, hey, is there anything that you have? Because it was on my 89th of my 90th day of
Oh my gosh.
So I didn't have insurance.
Yeah.
So here we were. And he says, well, hey, do you want to ride around in a golf cart and spray, tree rings and stuff with, pesticides and glyphosate, Roundup, whatever. And that's how I started on the golf course.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Just by tearing my ACL.
Yeah.
So,
well, and this industry really has become a way for people to stay in the game and be close to the sports that they love. In whether it is because injury takes them out or because, making the MLB isn't for everybody. But this is that way to get that behind the scenes look into everything and be ingrained in it. So that's very cool that's where your story begins as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It, like I said, never thought in a million years that this is where I would be and what I absolutely love to do. Obviously the good days outweigh the bad, but here we are.
Well, and when do you think it switched? You was like, okay, I've got to do this. I tore my ACL. I'm going to ride around on this golf cart but when was it like, oh my gosh, I could do this for a career?
So after that, got better and everything. Their spray tech was having knee surgery, became their spray tech. And of course, just another little notch in the belt and promotion in a sense. And just, I fell in love with it. So the superintendent left, the assistant became the super, and they asked me, even just with the small knowledge that I had, if I wanted to become an assistant, and I said sure, and just dawn to dusk. Just ended up working as much as I could just to learn it. Of course, going to Golf Course Superintendents Association and meetings, and just, Florida and just Miami being a mecca of golf is just starting to talk to superintendents and stuff like that. So, that is really like, okay, I can do this. It's on machinery, and it's just, I'm a hands-on person. I'm a visual learner. And teaching other people what I was learning along the way and learning from them as well. It was just a great give and take.
And what were the elements of it that you think hooked you? Like, I know you said you never envisioned yourself in like an office type setting.
Well, yeah, just, like I said, mowing grass, just hopping on a mower, you can have the most stressful day, but hop on a mower or even a sand pro and go break bunkers or something, and you're just in your own element. You're hearing the birds, you're smelling the freshly cut grass, which they need to bottle it because I could sell. I would buy it in a heartbeat. It's just my favorite smell, and it's just being just with nature and stuff, and just once you get that niche of it, it's your total outcome. It's your final product. What you've done and the attention to detail that you really put toward it. And growing up, being told I was a little bit of a perfectionist probably helped a little bit as well.
Definitely.
So just seeing your final product and having people come to play on your golf course and give you the accolades and, your greens committees and everybody else, saying, hey, either you're doing a good job or, hey, we need to do X, Y, and Z. So definitely. It was very, very gratifying.
And my co-host, my boss, Chris Bell, he asked this question on the last one that I just loved, because I'm sure it's hard to put yourself back in the shoes of, 17-year-old Maryanne or 18-year-old Maryanne. But what do you think she would say? Or do you think she would be totally shocked at where you are today? Or do you think it would be like, you know what, that makes sense?
Wow. Present Maryanne would say it totally makes sense. But back then, gosh, no.
Yeah.
Would have never thought in a million years that I took the journey that I did and basically sitting where I'm sitting now. As my husband and I would come up here as a guest or even as a kid with your families to Disney. And here I am. I drive through that archway and that, there's many of them, but that archway every single day to come to work. So, yeah.
Well, I know you were just
it's still mind-blowing.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, I was just like in awe, like, lost for words throughout our drive. But you were just like weaving in and out of the roads, like it like the back of your hand, and how I'm sure not a lot of people have that experience in life.
Right. Yeah. It's funny because when family or friends do come up and they're like, "Oh, where do you want to go? What do you want to do?" And it's just like, somebody driving to the grocery store or their favorite restaurant.
Yeah.
It's just, okay, if we need to go somewhere, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
And it's just, it is pretty much like, the back of my hand for sure.
I love it. Now, who were the people that because I'm sure, little did you know that this was a career, but then you also have to convince other people in your life that, hey, this is something I can do and I can have a career. Who are those people that really supported your aspirations to pursue turf as a career?
So it's funny you say that, and of course I sat and thought of that a lot. To really move through it was my first assistant, then superintendent was Dale Anderson. And he was just so easy to work for, and he was always there for you, beside you, any questions. And there was a lot of times where we both didn't know, and it's like, all right, well, we need to try and figure something out. So how does that work? And when, I would fail, it was like, okay, what did you do wrong? Or what did you learn? It wasn't ever, a negative tone to it. It was always because that's how he learned.
Yeah.
And again, I'm a visual learner and I'm a hands-on person. So that's how I learn. Again, have associates in arts degree, don't even have a turf degree, but same thing, seminars, talking to people, knowing who to reach out to. And so he really kind of like between, my dad of playing on the turf to then, going and working on the golf course and seeing that final product and working with Dale and everything, that was like the coup de grace. And as far as like anyone else bringing me there, I knew my mom was proud and stuff, but to think again where I would be now, never thought that
they could never have conceptualized.
Even my dad and which still lives down in Miami, and my mom has since passed, but talking to him about it, they've been up to Disney. Of course, they've come up and visit, and we go around, and they just still, my best friend, she was up last year. I took her around, the sports complex and stuff. She was like, this is just too wild. This is just too weird. So it's to have your friends and family come up that you can showcase and tell them basically when they're coming as a guest, hey, this is what I do for not only you, but everyone else across the world, in a sense, because everyone comes to Disney, to really look at and admire and be in awe of. And that's where it really makes it just so gratifying each and every day. So, so any one particular person is just, I just hope, don't really know and can say that one particular person, but just know that I know that it's multiple.
Definitely.
Multiple.
Well, and how inspiring it is for, anybody that listens or reads the profile. Like, this industry is that where it's like you don't have to have that blueprint. There's so many jobs where it's like you have to get this GPA and then you have to get into this type of college and then you have to get this degree and it has to be perfect. And that's the only way that you'll one day sit in the position you want. In this industry, there's so many different avenues for you to be successful.
Right.
And what do you like? What else about the industry do you think has really welcomed you with open arms in that sense, where it's like, hey, if you're hardworking, attention to detail, we'll take you?
I would say, for me, that's always first and foremost, but just having the open-mindedness of there's never just one way of doing it.
Yeah.
There's multiple ways. Like, I'm sure you can go to 10 different golf courses or sports facilities, and how do you aerify? And they all using the same equipment.
Yeah.
But they may do it differently, And so there's not just that mold. So moving through and just the progression of my years in the turf industry is there's so many, with GPS and stuff now, you can put it on a mower and you just kind of sit on it, or it's autonomous. And never thought in a million years. It's like, no, it needs the hard work. It needs the grind, and you got to be out there for it, So it's different in that aspect for sure.
And we talked a little bit about it, but, what are some of the personality traits or qualities that you think someone needs to have in order to be successful in the industry? And really twofold on that is, what do you think of those qualities do you possess?
Definitely hard work, dedication, patience, and it leads into your strong leadership skills and stuff as well. Being flexible.
Yeah.
I'd say flexibility has really, I won't say gotten looser as far as myself, but you have to be.
Yeah.
Because you can't just say, well, nope, we got to do it on this day and it's got to be done by this day, start to finish. And, when you work with a live commodity and Mother Nature and everything else, sometimes you can't have those timelines. So you have to be very flexible. And I think that has really, and I mentioned it to you this morning, is, it's a shell game when you look at your work and stuff, because you have so many other people working around you.
Yeah.
Whether it's your athletes, your clients, the events, within the parks and resorts, it's all different. Engineering, it's horticulture, it's all the different facets where you have to be very flexible and nimble to pivot.
Yeah.
And change course. So it's I think flexibility is probably the biggest one that I wasn't aware of.
Well, and I can really relate to that because I, in the very small experience I have working with the Women in Turf team and going and doing those events, that was like, okay, I can hang with the crazy hours. I can really vibe with the group, like different personality types. None of that threw me for a curveball, but the patience that is required, I was like, how is nobody else freaking out that like these umpires are deciding to just add, 30 minutes to this or something.
Right.
Or this team didn't show up on time, or the rain delay is, completely derailing our schedule. I was like, how are they all just like sitting around being like, I was annoyed as hell. Like, and the flexibility that they all were just like, okay, well, rain delay, what could we do? Let's go make, a list of jobs that we can come up with while we're waiting for the rain to, and I was just like, oh, like those are things that I immediately could recognize I don't possess. And I would say like those were the biggest things, like that, the patience that things are not always going to go your way, and the flexibility to adapt when that happens, which I don't know what that says about me, but not good things. That I don't have those things, but no, I could definitely like attest to that's what is in a, groundskeeper's DNA for sure. So my next question was like, who are you really in your element? And when I, type that question and send it, it's like, I would love for you to paint me a picture of that. But then I really felt like I got to see you in your element a little bit this morning. And I wish the whole world could have been along for us on that. Just, really taking in the landscapes and all the work that your team does, and just incredible. But from your point of view, describe for the people you really in your element, where you feel most comfortable.
Yeah, that was a tough question for me when I first read it, to really sit and think about it. But, it's showcasing what we do, and I'm not a very good public speaker. I've gotten a little better at it, as I had told you before. But when you start talking of your work and your team around you that supports you, not only just from your actual team that are out there, cutting the cups and, painting the lines and mowing and everything else, and having that attention to detail as well. And your leaders that are out there doing it with you, it's all the other elements around you. So it's your clients, it's your guests, it's your golfers, it's anybody in that turf industry that's coming to see what you have done.
Yeah.
And so when people come and see that, and of course we get, I call them, our show quality scores and stuff like that, as far as events, and whether it be an event that we just had, or soccer or football or whatever, or even from the Flower and Garden Festival.
Yeah.
We see those scores, and to see, of course you have the good with the bad and everything else, but it's more of that positive aspect of it. And with that, that's the gratifying part. And when people, like when business development comes around for us here at the sports complex with a client, potential client, they're, well, this is this, and they're just like, they come back, because sometimes we're on the walks and sometimes we're not. And, you hear what they hear, because it's passed down, because not only my peers, but it's also my directors and my GMs, how proud they are that we're all a part of their team, and that they're, and that's what really makes it so gratifying and satisfying, all in the same aspect. So to be in my element is, okay, that's a little feather in your cap.
Yeah.
And you can kind of walk proud, proud peacock,
Definitely.
in a sense, even though, we are more behind the scenes and support.
Yeah.
For all of it, but people come to see it, and they're coming for a reason. So to show you, someone that came as a kid and everything else, but to see it from, our eyes and what we look for, even though it's just, whether it's the landscape and that, but walking around, there were some guests and stuff, and just seeing the little kids and just seeing how people react.
Definitely.
And they're taking pictures of topiaries, and know that your team, had a part of it. So it makes it really special, for sure.
Well, and just like you mentioned behind the scenes, where it's like, it's almost this other, I don't even know how to phrase it, but you can see these people enjoying it, and you just know, like, oh, people have been pulling midnight shifts for however long to make this happen, and the pride you guys must take in the hard work that it requires to pull something like that off.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We've got cast members here that have worked here for, I say, probably almost 3/4 of them have worked here for probably 25 plus years.
Wow, yeah.
And that's just a testament to what we do.
Yeah.
And that's the pride of it too. Like, you know what? Yeah, it's, there's people out there that are bigger and better. Absolutely. Not saying that we are top notch, but you know what? We're going to make it as best as we can.
Yeah.
So absolutely.
Well, and just the element of it is so magical as well. Just like your director, we came across him when we were on the walk, Patrick, and he was like so elated about, I don't know if it was his first time seeing the front display, but he was like, have you seen it yet? Like you're going to just, and how cool that is that you get to come to work and share that excitement with your coworkers. It's not the dread of like, oh, we got to do this today. Yeah, no. But it's like, look at what we created as a team together.
It's just new innovations.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we actually try and do that every year, that we have to come up with something innovative every year to showcase to our, senior VPs and upper management and stuff. And it's just, Flower and Garden Festival, people come and some people base their vacations upon it. And you want to do something different for them, So that front entrance has got to be something different, something spectacular every year. And that's how, when people come to the sports complex, that's what we want them, it's when they enter, they kind of come down some steps and a ramp and stuff, and they're just overseeing the fields and everything. And it's I want it to be just like the parks is. It's that awe moment.
Yeah.
And then once they get to their kids to play on it and stuff, and I even see, we're coming up with our spring training and stuff, and I've had people walk across our soccer fields and like actually bend down to like rub their hand on it. Like, is this real or is it fake? To me, that's the biggest compliment I could ever have is them thinking that it's artificial. Yeah. That is, I've had that a couple times within the last couple of years. And that is just like, you know what? Okay, I can go home for the day.
I love it.
I've got the smile from ear to ear, and I'm good. We've done something right.
I love it. Yeah. Well, and, Disney is so much about creating that experience for every single guest. Like, it's that once in a lifetime experience. And you really have the opportunity to not only do that within the parks and all the landscaping you do there, but also these sports fields. Like, this could be one kid's Super Bowl or their biggest memory that they're going to have when they think back to their softball career or their soccer career. Yeah. Whether they're little league, like you said, or all the way up to like a college athlete. Yeah. And how you get to really curate an experience for them, not only for them playing on the field, but like you said, their parents that get to come and be awed by the field and be like, my kid gets to have this moment here. Right. Talk a little bit about how that fuels you and keeps you going when I'm sure sometimes the events and the hours are not always the most glamorous.
Right. Like I said, it's dawn to dusk at times, but I'll give you a couple of examples actually. So we have one of our leaders in guest operations, and just he's in guest operations, has worked in other areas as far as the company and that, but he's here at the sports complex now. And every time I see him, he just has to bend my ear about the fields and what are you doing? And are you airifying? What's that? What's next? Type thing. It's because he was here playing as a kid in soccer. Yeah. And I said, if you can have one piece of a field anywhere, he's like, Field 21, I want the goal mount because he was a goalkeeper. Oh, so and cool. I'd want just a little chunk of it or whatever the case may be. And there's so many people that played here as a kid that either now work here, possibly as a vendor that come in and say, "Oh yeah, man," or brought their kids here. Yeah. and they're getting to see it to where they saw it in the early stages where we were only half the size we were currently.
Yeah.
You know, as far as expansions and everything else. So yeah, so it's definitely something else. So when you hear those people coming back and saying, "Yep, I played baseball here," or "I had my spring training here," or you know, "I brought my kid here," you know, it's again, it's just that little, you know, light of your eye and in your eye, that little spark that you get, that just makes it all worthwhile.
Definitely. And you started to talk a little bit about scope there, but give everyone an idea. We talked about it earlier today. Like, how many fields are we talking? What is the complex here? Try and paint a picture for those that maybe didn't, you know, try and research it on Google Maps like I did. I tried to count how many there were, and it was impossible to really capture it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So currently built is 110 acres, and we have 80 acres of playing surface. So we have our baseball quad, so 4 fields there, and then we have a half field. We have our Major League Stadium. Then you kind of come over, we have 6 softball fields that we have converted when I first got here into baseball. So full on clay infields, made 3 of them to where they had grass to where they were baseball for the little leagues. That was a fun little switch out. And then our sports fields, we have 17 multi-purpose fields. All of them are probably about 2.5 acres or so, 2 acres. But they could house soccer, football, lacrosse, field hockey. So we have 17 of those, and then we have a full track and field facility. So 110 acres that is developed, and then we have a whole another 110 acres that isn't developed. So there is room for expansion.
Fun.
Yes, absolutely. Bring it on, right? Build it, they will come. I'm waiting for it. But that's the thing too, is a lot of our tournaments and that are getting so big. That we do need more room for them. You know, so it would be definitely a daunting task to go from ground of, you know, a wooded area to start to finish, you know, as far as that type of construction. Hadn't really been through anything like that. But again, wow, what would be something so amazing to have on your resume, you know, to go through it all.
Yeah. And to look back and to really have this complex serve as a form of your legacy as well. You know, whether it be one field that you just loved on, extra special, or like you said, where you get to see it from start to finish. That's really unique. Yeah, no, absolutely. And actually, we're redoing our championship field when we had, you know, the MLS bubble and everything. We're completely taking it down. It's completely stripped of all the sod and probably taking out about 3 to 4 inches of, you know, Mother Earth. And we're going to start fresh, you know, not as far as drainage or irrigation or anything like that, but that's the most that I've done so far here at the complex and stuff. So, yeah, so it's a little bit of a daunting task, hence the dawn to dusk. Definitely. To stay here and stuff. But again, it's sometimes you gotta make a mess to just make something so beautiful that people just want to come and see it, you know, or play on it, you know, and that's the thing. And you just gotta, if you're gonna do it, you gotta do it right, because it's gotta be safe to play on for, you know, athletes and stuff. So that's something that we always, obviously, safety with Disney and stuff that we strive for. Definitely. And were you here in this position when the bubble happened? I was not. Okay. No, another one of my mentors actually was here. I worked for Tim Flowers and he was in pest control as well. Okay. I worked with him 22 of my 26 years here. Oh my gosh. So, yeah. So, in fact, it was funny. I just texted him some pictures of Field 17 saying, "Hey, never did this, did you?" I love it. And he was like, "Holy cow." It's like, just the amount of pictures that I sent him, and granted, it's a mound of dirt, but he was just like, he was right in with it. I love that. Right in with it. So, yes, I had to share that with him. I love it. So yeah, for anyone that doesn't remember, the bubble was like they brought MLS to Disney, and it was during COVID, so that you guys could still have games and make it happen.
Yeah.
And
So every MLS team that was a part of that league practiced here and played here. So it's the first time ever in the world that, and I'm not quite sure of how many teams it was, but that they did it all in one facility.
wow,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what a feat.
I wish I was here, guys. I saw a little bit of it just coming over, but certainly, now my guys were, my whole entire team was, so they went through it was a 24/7 operation is what they said. So it was constant, because if it wasn't one field, it was another.
And if it wasn't a game, it was practice. And
I mean, that's where we converted 4 of our baseball fields into soccer fields.
wow.
So, and they're still that way, but there's, if we have to convert them back, then we most certainly will.
Yeah. And so you talk a little bit about Tim, but was there any other turf professionals or just leaders in general that you've come across that that really inspire you, or that you hope to embody some of their practices?
Since the majority of my career was either at Shula's or here, it's the Tim Flowers, it's the Patrick Zuzak, that my director that you met today.
Yeah.
Kelly Day, who was a GM here before, is now in learning and development. Just to help me through, you own your craft as far as that goes, but when you get in the positions of leadership and upper leadership, that is what a lot of companies work for, and that's Disney. I mean, your craft. You wouldn't be in the position if you didn't know your craft. So your next step is then your leadership.
Yeah.
And they really help me get past, okay, your business. Now, let's move you to the next step, which is that leadership piece of it, which they're like, you have, but I know I had work to do and stuff. And I know I could call any one of them and they would coach me through any aspect of it. So between Tim, Patrick, and Kelly, I would definitely say that those are 3 that really got me through it for sure.
I love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's
just the support.
Yeah, and just the resource and the toolkit in your back pocket, and just knowing you have people that want to see you succeed. Yeah,
I was going to say just a cheerleader.
Yeah,
and knowing that you can do it, even though you may not have the thought that you can do it yourself.
Definitely. And what are some of the philosophies that that you live by, that you hope one day somebody is like, Maryanne was a leader in this sense and inspired me? What are some of those philosophies that you really try to incorporate in your day-to-day?
Same thing, just the hard work, the dedication. For me, it's just learning from people that I'm around.
Yeah.
Like I said, I am not the guru. I try and open it up and ask people for their opinion as far as my field managers. We hardly have any meetings in the office. It's usually, hey, let's meet on a field, let's talk it through. And I want to hear what they're thinking. Like I mentioned earlier, you can have all the turf or golf greens, or everyone's going to aerify differently. You're going to do something differently every time. It's not just cookie cutter. And so I always throw out my ideas, and right, wrong, or indifferent. You know what? It's a lot of trial and error. So I try and embody to where it's not telling somebody what to do or why we're doing it. Or just to do it, but tell them the whys behind it.
Yes, yeah.
And so, yes, we have 17 multi-purpose fields, but they were all built at different times. So basically you have 17 different fields that act differently.
Yep, and require their own maintenance
almost. But you try and treat them all the same. So knowing that I've only been here for 4 years, I have one of my cast members, he was here from inception.
Oh my
so
gosh.
We're looking at almost 27 years for the sports complex. He was here when the stadium was being built.
Wow.
And my field managers, 2 of them were here as hourly cast members to where they helped to build some of the fields as far as the expansion. So I rely on them. I don't have all the answers. So I want to know that history. And a lot of times you need to know that history. So I don't have per se anybody like in the industries because again, I'm kind of, I keep myself sheltered. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm trying to get out into, especially here in Orlando, and that is going and seeing different facilities and that, and networking and stuff. So, not being one to really, bring up a conversation or something like that. It's hard, how do you start and stuff. So, how do you do that? And that's where I'm trying to get a little bit better at that. But I know I could reach out to my Patrick's or Kelly's or even people as far as that I work with in our business development and saying, hey, vendors, whoever that may be, I'd like to go and meet so-and-so.
Yeah.
I'd like to go and look at a facility. Guess what? Somebody's going to know somebody, give them a call, give them a ring.
Definitely.
And and you just sit out there and talk shop.
Yep. It's the beauty of this industry.
Yeah, and that's really, really how I learned a lot of it. And like I said, it's just being hands-on and just being out there and doing it next to the person that, started where you started.
Yes, it's so cool. And we were talking when we were rocking around Epcot about, I was like, how do you guys keep track of all of, because there's one little patch of grass here and then there's, a flower bed over here and then there's a bonsai tree over here. It's like, how do you keep track of all these things? And you talked a little bit about how you really helped lay the groundwork for some of those systems and mapping that out and how cool it is for you to take that walk this morning and be right in your own, home almost.
Right. Backyard.
Backyard. I love that.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So, as technology evolves, before you just, you go out, you take care of an area and you document it on a piece of paper with a pen, pen and paper, and that's it. And now with different services and stuff, like I said, we work off of work orders, and everything's on your phone. So, but to get that documentation on your tablet, phone, or whatever program you're using, you have to go out and know your area. So you have to know where everything is mapped out. Well, the only way to do that is with a phone, a pen and paper, and here it is, and here's the location, and walk it. And myself and one of my other area managers for my lawn and ornamental team, him and I were planners together. It was our plan work specialist, or like an extension of leadership, but you're still in an hourly role. We went out and mapped this whole entire property, whether it be one particular type of plant material, whether it was, okay, we're going to do our hawthorn or our azaleas, turf, different types of turf, zoysia, Bermuda, different types of trees. It's, with everything that we have within the parks and resorts, our resorts and that are themed. So it's different types of plant material. It's tropical or it's Pacific Northwest or so you have to learn that. And of course we're Florida. So, can we grow Pacific Northwest trees? And so, well, not too much, but is there something out there that looks like it? So that comes back to theming and with our architects and landscape architects and stuff like that. So, you learn from them what their vision is, and then how do you keep it going once it's basically installed?
So cool. Like one of these tasks could keep somebody busy for a lifetime, and you're doing a lot of that.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And just start that. Yeah. Like you said, I mean, him and I kind of laid the groundwork for where our team is now. And, how can we innovative? How can we change it? And that's where we do have so many, people coming to our parks and resorts in the complex where we really, really watch, what we do, how we do it, make it safe for everybody. Not only the playing surface, but just the plant material and stuff. So we do a lot of IPM, integrated pest management. We release a lot of beneficial insects, to where they're doing the work for us, and we're very fortunate here in Florida, though. We have our own native beneficials, so they're out there too. We're just adding to it.
Yeah. So cool. It's a whole another world.
Yes.
Like truly.
It truly, and not just because of where we're at, but yes, it definitely is.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah.
And how does that really become more than a 9 to 5? And I mean that more, not just like the hours, but how has this job really become a part of who you are? And why is this not a clock in, clock out operation? Like, I'm sure it's something that you have to have a love for this. You have to buy into the entire vision.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, 100%. Thank goodness my husband is very loving and know how much I do love it. And he knows it because he was, and that's how we kind of met, he was the assistant pro at the golf course that I was the assistant superintendent. So golfer for myself. In fact, he taught me how to golf and made my first set of clubs for me and everything. But he is very understanding and just knows, because we could be out and about and say, hey, do you want to take a ride on the fields if we don't have anything going on?
Yeah.
And of course, just showing him pictures and everything, and just having him understand it makes it so much easier, because I can know that, hey, yeah, not a problem. Hey, we can go out to dinner, when I get home or something like that. And next thing you know, I got to text him and say, hey, sorry, it's going to be a late night.
Yeah.
And guess what? Everything, either I'm picking something up or it's just something quick at the house. But if it weren't for him understanding that aspect of it, it obviously, would make it a little bit more difficult. But he does know do you still like what you do?
Yeah.
He still asks me that. And I said, I don't like what I do. I love what I do.
Oh, I love
it.
it.
And it's the whole, the whole adage, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. But I could definitely say that for sure and mean it.
That's really incredible. And it really just touched me like that. Like when you were like, I don't like what I do. And I was like, oh no, what is she about to say? and I can really see that from you, that you really love this work. And you were talking a little bit about it earlier. And for me, again, my boss always makes fun of me. He's like, you always find a way to bring it back to you. And it's like, but for me, I'm not attention to detail. Like you were like, oh, it's all about, the guest of show. And I was like, man, that is something I could never buy into. Like, it is about me. Let's keep it real. Like, it's about my schedule, where I need to be, what I want to do. So for you to buy into that idea, that it's for their experience, like, talk a little bit about that and how that drives you.
Yeah, it's, being in this industry, and it was our first conversation that you and I had actually. And, you told me that, women in the industry, in this turf industry, we're only, from all aspects, not just, groundskeepers or whatever. It's from the offices to, executives, whatever the case may be, marketing. We're 1.3%.
Yeah.
That blew me away.
Yeah.
That totally blew me away. And I'm actually a part of, and just became a part of, WISE, which is Women in Sports events. And it's just a networking aspect that I can go to these seminars that they have and you just network.
Yeah.
They'll have special speakers, whether it's from, same thing, leadership, marketing, or just anything, to where it's just getting women together in the sports industry. And it's all throughout the country. To really know that, not so much that we have a voice, but we do have a voice, but what can we do for this industry?
Yeah.
So that really, to help other people, whether it's you go into a college and being in the industry. And that's the thing, is you don't necessarily have to go to a college for it. Looking back, do I wish I had that college experience to learn all of that? Absolutely. And I tried to, in between, at the early stages of my career, I was going to go to a turf school thinking, you know what, I could go away, I can do the internships. I was young enough to do so, but then I ended up getting engaged and meeting my husband. So but that's where you have to learn how to pivot and have, that flexibility, because things just happen.
Yeah.
And again, didn't, think I would be here, sitting here, but yeah, you have to find your voice, and use it, challenging yourself and finding your own journey.
Definitely.
You can talk to 1,000 different people and get one little nugget maybe from what they're saying, but you have to really sit and look at yourself as far as where you want to take yourself and what position that you want to be in.
Definitely. I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit. What are some of the projects or passions that you're most proud of? Because when we're talking about this much space, this, in this many fields, I'm sure it could be hard for it to stay top of brain. But what are some of those projects or side gigs that you've just you're like, that was it. Like, I'm so proud of that.
Yeah. Thank goodness I don't have any side gigs. Don't have time for side gigs. But I always end up having a side gig because I always say yes to trying to help somebody or do something else, It's like, what can we help with? And then my plate is very, very full and overflowing. But with the amount of property that we do have here, like I was telling you, the biggest one was converting baseball fields into soccer fields and then soccer fields into baseball fields. And we had to do that. We had notification of a baseball team coming in, and we had to be flexible. We had to pivot. So it's, calling your contractor, but the job is so big that you need multiple contractors. And at the time I didn't know. So here's, Dr. Google, just start looking them up, start calling people. And it was an absolute whirlwind. But we pulled it off within about a 6-month period.
Crazy. And
that I could definitely say it was, so far in my career, one of the biggest projects here at the sports complex. Again, like I mentioned, our field 17 is being redone right now. So right now that's my new project. From start to finish. So it's just, we just started it literally on Monday.
Wow.
Is when we broke ground. So right now it's you can have a little monster truck or a dirt bike track on it now, because that's all it is mounds of dirt.
Perfect. I'll bring my kids by later.
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely. So I could definitely say that that's it. Being in, starting off in horticulture and pest control and that, it's 250 acres of St. Augustine. We have, within the parks and resorts, another probably 100 acres, 50 acres of Bermuda zoysia, that are all in different places, all in different areas, different growing mediums, different, just everything. It's not a wide open sports complex. So that's where you learn how to deal with those types of turf in different locations with different traffic. Is it cart traffic? Is it people traffic? And just making those applications to where, golf courses and stuff, you have control over everything, just as we do here at the sports complex. You make an application, you can turn on the water, you can do your syringes and stuff in the afternoons. You have to learn all the different aspects and realms of it, because in our resorts in that we can't.
Yeah.
You know, like, guess what? Sue's rope drops, park's open,
Yeah.
resort's open, you know, and it's constant. So you can't, so you have to learn how to do a lot of that, whether it's maintenance, like you said. Yeah, our horticulture team, as soon as park closes, they're in at 11 o'clock
Crazy.
at night till, you know, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning.
Crazy.
And they're cleaning up, going home, sleeping, eating, whatever, and coming back and doing it all over again.
Wow.
And, you know, we do that. We do that here at the sports complex too, if we need to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it just all depends on what that is. And that's just where it becomes that shell game and that pivot of, okay, what's our game plan?
Yeah.
And what's going to happen and everything else. So, yeah, it's still just sitting here talking to you. It's just, it's all inspiring for sure. You know, as far as the realm and the enormity of it.
Well, and like you said, the enormity, I'm sure it's like a day in and day out. It's like heads down, let's get to work. It's hard to take a view back and be like, what is the big picture? And to force you to do that, you know, what is kind of that legacy you're hoping to build here? You know, you have the longevity with this company, with this, you know, industry, but what do you really hope people remember? And serves as kind of your legacy?
I would say just being able to, again, have the hard work, the dedication, and the ability to adapt to change.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people can't. I was one of them early in my career. No.
Yeah.
Nope. You want me to do it? Nope. Not going to do it. You know, it's just one of those things. But if you want to move on in your career, you have to learn to, and you have to overcome and adapt.
Yep.
That's a lot of it. And you just got to have a positive attitude doing it. You know, because it's just, you get more with your positive thoughts than the what ifs. So, well, what if this, and we can't do this because of this. You got to get out of that mind frame. You just got to be like, well, okay, this is our challenge. How are we going to make it work? And it's not how, it's okay, let's make it work. So so you just gotta bulldoze through it.
I love it. And what are you hoping anyone who stumbles across this profile, what are you hoping they really take away from your story, from your journey?
Oh my goodness, here we are. I'm not like you, Megan, as far as talking about me. No, I'm kidding.
It's somewhere deep in my DNA.
Yeah. That is, again, a tough one. I just hope that I can have that positive influence on somebody that, hey, I was once where you are. I have an open door policy. Just whatever you may have a question on, how can I help you with your journey?
Definitely.
Big time. Just, you know, I may not have, you know, said names as far as, you know, who I can, like, who's proud of me or this, that, and the next thing, but I know that there's a bunch of people out there. It's just, can I do that for them? That's the biggest thing.
Definitely. And then last but certainly not least, who are you outside of this job? You know, what are the things that keep you grounded and are the foundation of who you are so that you can come in here and, you know, deliver the best product possible?
Yeah. You know, my husband is, like I said, God love him. As far as the hours I do work. So I'm a morning person. He is a night owl. And he is retired. So he goes to bed when I go to work.
I love it.
So, you know, he tucks me in at night and I tuck him in the morning.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, he, you know, we just had our 29th wedding anniversary.
Wow.
And, and like I said, from where it started, you know, family, friends, you know, I've got so many friends that I've gotten here. I mean, it's a big family.
Yeah.
You know, so it's those friends and families that just, they may work in something totally different that you do. But they can see the passion that I have because they've told me. And I can see it in them as well, but just knowing that people can come here and just see the, you know, the end results that we have, that's that's it. But outside of here, I love sports, love watching them with friends and family, love playing them. Husband and I still try and get out and play some golf as much as we can. But yeah, I just, you know, love the beach. You know, I've obviously grown up in Miami and stuff. It's still just got very near and dear to my heart. Hence the marine biology, but here I am landlocked, right?
Yep.
So, but yeah, I'm hoping I'm just a calm, chill person. Love music, love all different types of music. So, just like to be around friends and family, you know, but I do love my downtime as well. You know, especially when you have some of the weeks that we have in our business and stuff, to where, you know, a 2-day weekend isn't enough to recharge, but you make the most of it, you know?
And then I lied. Last question now. This one is the last question. What does it mean to be pioneers in the field? To be named pioneers in the field?
Wow. Very humbling and what an honor. When you guys had asked me to do this, I was like, me? You know, so yeah, very humbling, very honored. And I just hope that, like you asked me earlier, is, you know, I could just be that influence for somebody else.
Love it. Well, thank you so much, friend. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
To sit here and talk about your story, to see a day in the life through your eyes, truly. And I think now we're going to go walk around the ball fields a bit, see that side of the gig.
Let's do it.
But I really wish everyone could be right alongside us. But since they can't, they can enjoy this episode and you know, read your story in the profile and all that good stuff. But thank you for all the time.
Thank you. Have a great one.